So you got an employee, Morty, and they're late. You want to fire them. When you're about to fire them, you bring Sally in the room. You say, Sally, I'm about to fire you. And Sally goes, I'm pregnant. What do you do?
That could be a real pickle, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that unless the employer has digital records that, one, there was performance issues prior to the date she told you that she was pregnant, and the intent to terminate her is also documented digitally prior to her telling you you're pregnant, then I would not fire her. And if I was a plaintiff's lawyer and that person came to me and there was no digital records, I would take that case.
So just so I'm understanding you clearly, because in the real world, people don't have digital records. Like, what is a digital record? Do you mean just like emailing myself?
Yeah, either emailing yourself or having a personnel file on a folder, folder on the computer.
Okay,
like
so
you have any other folder on your computer, you have this employee A, and here's her personnel
So it's
file.
not like this big business thing. Like I could just have a folder.
Yes.
And as long as I have, because it will say the date and timestamp.
Yes.
And I have to write when someone's late, when they're, and do I just write, Sally was late today?
Well, I would say Sally was 15 minutes late, 10 minutes late. I would say what happened as a result of her being late. She missed her assignment. Someone else had to cover for her. And I would make sure it's
And if she's late again, I'm thinking about firing her.
Yes.
And I have to write that too.
Yes, I would put that in
All
there.
right, just to loop back. So I'm meeting with her and I'm going to fire Sally and she's been late and no one likes her or whatever other reason is. I don't like her, whatever it is, and she says she's pregnant. And I don't got those records. What do I do?
Well, then I wouldn't fire her because you're exposing yourself to a potential lawsuit.
What happens if I don't want her, though?
Damages could exceed six figures.
Can she release those damages?
She can, but if you present her with let's say a severance agreement, and then she goes and she shows that to a plaintiff's lawyer, and the employer doesn't have digital records, that attorney's going to say, don't sign that, I'm taking that case.
Well, just to back up, you said it could expose you to six figures. Like this gal makes minimum wage. How do you get from $15 an hour to six figures? I don't, please.
Well, damages are unlimited to her back wages or front wages.
Whoa, 2 words. Yeah. What does that mean?
So back wages mean if she, let's say she sues the employer 6 months after her employment was terminated, then takes another two years to get to trial, and then she gets a verdict in her favor. She could get back wages for those 2.5 years and potential front wages into the future.
Okay. What else besides back and front wages?
She could also get emotional distress damages.
What does that mean?
So for anxiety or any other mental health issues she has as a result of you terminating her employment.
So you're saying she gets paid for emotional distress, but what does that mean? Like the treatment? Do you have to pay for the treatment for her? Like where do the numbers come from?
Look, the court doesn't order the employer to give her medication. The court can compensate that employee for what
that's my question.
She endured. So if let's say she had to see a therapist, or she was on medication, or her lifestyle was changed in other ways.
You're not answering my question, though. So she has to see a therapist. What is that worth? Like, how do we come up with those numbers?
So it's in the court's discretion.
Discretion meaning up to the judge.
Correct.
So if the judge feels sympathetic, it's more money.
Yeah.
And what else are damages?
Potential punitive damages.
What does that mean?
To punish the employer if the judge feels it's egregious.
And what else?
And the employer would also have to pay the employee's attorney's fees.
So that's why when you jumped out and you're like, I would take that type of case, it's because the defendant would pay the plaintiff's attorney's fees.
Yes, that's definitely part of it.
All right, so just so I'm clear, if they tell you that they're pregnant and I don't have records, you have to be out of your mind to fire them.
That's correct.
What happens if they say the reason they were bad, I do have records. I do have records this time. And they say the reason I was bad is because I was pregnant. I was going to doctor's appointments, I was doing this. Can I retroactively, an employee, get out of the bad?
No, unless the employer had knowledge of this beforehand.
So unless I had knowledge, I had no knowledge. If I keep records and they're digital, date and time stamped, and I have a digital record of intent to fire, I'm safe. That's what an HR employer should do.
Yes.
Got it.